With all of the games that I buy these super rare one-off type games and then hope that I keep them in good condition while I let the public play them, because I take everything to the arcade at some level. My name is Cary Carmichael, and I collect a lot of pinball machines. We're going to start with Dracula because it's serial number 0, the first game that was ever produced. It was the prototype game put together in November of 1992. In that time when they're trying to figure out what the rules are going to be, how the overall code is going to go together with it, the sounds, the art, all of that. There are text differences, art differences, stuff that doesn't actually exist in the game that they thought, well, this is something we're going to do, but then ended up not doing. Instead of it saying Bram Stoker's Dracula on the playfield, it just says Dracula. The two plastics that are on top of the kickers with Keanu Reeves and Winona, those are part of the prototype package. Technically, they did rerun those, and so many folks do have them now. The way that Williams did it back in the day was the very first game went to the coder. So this was Bill Futz's game that he coded on. And at some point on Pinside, there was a fella that had talked about how he found this game in Bill Futz's basement, essentially. And he pulled it out of the basement, bought it from Bill. At one point, after it had been off market for about 5 years, I hit him up on Pinside and said, hey, look, I finally have the scratch. I would love to be able to buy that game if you were interested in selling this game. I think that most people know that when they sell to me, it's going to stay with me for a long time. So it became one of the cornerstones of my collection. This is the most brutal, amazing game with that I need to play one more feeling. I owned one back in the day, sold it after I sold the game the first time. I knew I would own it again. In Bram Stoker's Dracula, the entire point is to earn all 3 of the multi-balls and to get them all at the same time. That's how you get your 30 millions. Missed multi-ball, one of the most unique features of probably any pinball machine. The sequence where the ball is dragged by a magnet underneath the playfield across the top of the playfield, and your goal is to knock the ball off that magnet. And that's where you can get into your 10 million shots. Then if you get castle or if you get coffin multi-ball stacked together, each one you add to it makes each shot worth 30 million. Bats is something that you want to get on ball 1. If you can get bats in ball 1, that adds to your bonus. So hitting the left ramp or loop, as they call it, 3 times, that'll start your bats. There are some interesting features, like if you go into the Renfield scoop, if you hit the flippers, that'll give you an extra 5 million points. This is one of the most buggy games that there are. If you play it in competition, you'll find the problems that do exist. Andrei Masenkoff has shown me at least twice what can happen, but the game can just totally pause, crash, and end up with a malfunction. So something that can ultimately happen. It happened in a World Championships out in Europe. Famous game, went really long, broke the game. After I had gotten that Dirty Harry, which we'll save for another episode, I had a penchant for trying to find other games that were those first serial numbers, but from Barry Arsler. Great designer, loved all of his games, and Dracula was just one of those games that I really, really enjoyed. It just is a phenomenal game to play. Even with all the bugs that are still present in the code, some of those games that you sell, you want it back. Well, I really wanted a Dracula back.